This daf Yerushalmi Eruvin, the article Oz B'Hadeshin Run daf Ayin Amraf right at the top. Yehuda Rabbi Omar, which is in the Vilna, the beginning of the Gemara on daf Samach Dal Amraf, the second Gemara. Yehuda Rabbi Omar towards the bottom. So on our mission, we said a Kohen had some sort of wound on his finger. He puts on it a piece of bulrush in order to heal the wound. So obviously, it's not a chatzitza. So you, Rabbi Omar Losha El Gemi, only a piece of bulrush, which is not a garment. Ava benigyon, which Carbon Ada says Ezer Kotan Noah, a nice small belt. Also, that's forbidden. They Yutzer Begani because it's an extra beged, and he holds. Or they said they held Savi Meiman. They wanted to say that the reason is Yitur Begadim Kechisa Begadim, that if one has additional garments, that's like missing garments. So you have to have exactly 4 garments, no more nor less. That's what they wanted to say. The reason was Rabbi Yaakov Bar Achav Shem Yasa Rabbi Chanina. No, he said a different reason. It says the reason like Rabbi Chanina. So the Moshe says, "Lo amar time of the tziltzul katan aser mishum yitur begadim." It's not going to count the extra garment. El Rabbi Chanina. Time mishum chatzitza. Evidently, this is in a place where it could be chatzitza. Time mechin avachlo yachutz ben misar lebeged v'chein ben beged lebeged. So somehow this is in a place where this would be an issue, that the chatzitza, not an issue of yitur begadim. The B'chaim brings down from the Bavli that the issue is, it says, Michasei Bali Ubasaro, that there shouldn't be chatzitza between the beged and his basar, and it's also between 2 begadim. So therefore, on the finger actually would not be necessarily a problem, because no chatzitza, it would have to be a place where it does make a chatzitza. And in other words, on your finger, you could have an azar katan of some sort, the nigion, or whatever, however you pronounce that. According to his Yitur Begadim, what would be the problem of Yitur Begadim? What would be, he obviously holds having more than 4 Begadim. It's not an issue in itself. What would be kind of like a Baal Toisib issue of having too many Begadim? So, Shnei Kutonos, Shnei Mitznafos. You have two shirts, 2 hats, 2 pairs of pants, 2 belts, any of those garments, you have double, so that would be a problem. There's a Reb Chaim, but he says that the Yitur Begadim is only by Big Day Kodesh, not by Big Day Chol. So it sounds like, I'm not sure I would say it that way, because like, I don't think he meant specifically whether it's Kodesh or Chol. Like the Pnei Moshe says, Yitur Big Day, going to be Big Day Kahuna Atzma. It means Big Day, Begadim like the Big Day Kahuna, whether the Kodesh or Chol is not the issue. Okay, Kohen Shloka Be'etzbo, a Kohen who got a wound on his finger. So now, let's see the Pnei Moshe before we saw the question. He says, "Come on, me boy, now lead Rabbi Chanina." Our case on Mishnah, right? In Karachla Avnid Mao. What if you put an Avnid on it? So you put an extra belt, but you put it on your finger. Okay, so Kohen Shloka Be'etzbo, Karachla, going back to Mar Karachla Avnid. Kol Shem Avnei Posel? Is any Chaleis Shem Avnei Posel? When Posel a Malbush, or it's only possible if you do it derech Malbush, meaning where you're supposed to wear the belt. The Gemara doesn't respond to this question. Okay, Tani, we learned. We're going to the next issue. Malim Bidyupi. I have a picture here in the only in the Bible it's called a dupi. Has 2 mouths, so you shall see it's a siphon. And you can siphon from one barrel there to another container. Okay. You start sucking, create a vacuum on one side of the siphon, and with this finger there to hold it, they put it into the other vessel, and then the liquid starts moving from one vessel to another, the one vessel to the other vessel. Mosifin Ba'ark, the Girsa, the Mefarshim changed it to Metifin, like the Bavli. And so the Gersa is Miarak, and that it's a kind of like a shower head, and it's like a noise machine, a white noise machine. You pour water in here to make a pleasant sound, and it's for the Chol on Shabbos. So these are things which you're allowed to do on Shabbos. This is not considered to be the Isra Shmos Kol does not apply to this. I was going to discuss this. Mani Yupik says here it's Mishtamicha. Mishtamicha is a word which means a siphon. Even Barak Easterboy Mema Orura. So there are two different versions. What this is. So some says it's an Orura, I mean it's an alarm clock, as the Quran says. It's not pleasant to use to wake up people. Use it nice. He says here, pleasant sound doesn't wake a person up. It makes them slumber more. And here it says, Kuknisa, it's like a melody you make through reeds. The carbonated Moshe says you actually put kind of like cords of metal underneath the vessel. Well, it's not just a pan like here, which I guess would be more the aurora, but actually like strings of metal or something like that underneath that, which are there to make some sort of pleasant sound. So obviously the chiddush by the miarik is that it's not considered to be the type of shmos kol, which is also on Shabbos. The question is what the chiddush is by a siphon, so it's a little bit difficult. Why should be? What's that means to be also? Chaim says, and the article brings it down because the uvdin the chol. So it's Gemara showing that it's not considered to be uvdin the chol. Okay. You have a yard which rain has fallen. So you have a base of a base of Mishnah, and people have to get through this muddy yard in order to get to the house of the mourner, the house of the Simcha. I raise a note to Evan, so the Shas changes. He says it's a toe sofrim. It says here noitel Evan umorid, as it says in the Gemara. It says you can't say it. He has to be teven. It's got to be because the Evan is muktzah. It has to be straw, something which is muchan at least as machal behema. It can't be Evan. I don't know if the article changed in the text itself, but let's see what he does here. He does. He actually changes the text itself. He says raise a note as Tevin umadadid. I mean, not in the text in the Gemara, but in the text of the article. He umadadid. I said umadadid. Umadadid. He brings down the things of straw and then mats it down. Okay. Which this naturally the Shas changes it, but evidently also others change it, and this is in sync with the Bavli, Taf Kuf down on the base. So the Reb Chaim says that this is okay because you're not mevatel the tevin there, because you're vatel the tevin. Evidently, that would be a problem of looking like Byneb, but if you're just using it to, I guess you're temporarily putting it there, then that's not okay. That's okay again because it's not binyan. Okay, you shouldn't do it the same way you do it on a weekday, and again, according to Reb Chaim, I mean you should not be mavato the tevin to the ground as you might do on a weekday. Tiny, it's very widely different opinions here. There's the shot. The Bnei Moshe, the Korban Eder says you're not allowed to use a adosha as a type of scale, and they're not allowed to use a scale to fill up water on Shabbos. The Bnei Moshe and the Reb Chaim say it's about a pulley. It's a large pulley. It's called I guess adosha is anything round. It could be like a scale, which has round receptacles. It could be like a pulley, which is round in of itself. You can't use adosha Shabbos if you're concerned about the chevel mashicha. Then it's mutter. You're concerned about the rope or the belt you're using in order to pull up the this vessel. It's okay. So the way, according to the Korban Eder, so it means that if you're concerned that the rope is going to snap, you're not going to fill up too much with it. So therefore, we're not afraid you're going to fill up too much water in order to then use for your chutz or your gina for your what was the issue in the Mishnah? We said you might use it in order to water your garden. So not concerned because it's you're afraid of the rope's going to snap, so you're limited because I guess it's afraid or something. So we're only going to take up a little bit of water anyway. According to the Bnei Moshe and Reb Chaim, it means that if you're doing this in order to diminish the amount of work you're doing, right? Because you're concerned about the rope. A little bit difficult to understand what that means. I guess going this, but he says that you don't want to do it many times and ruin your rope. So the pulley is actually a labor saving device. So it's a labor saving device. So therefore, that would be okay. I see you made a mistake. Bnei Moshe does not say it's a galgal. That's only Reb Chaim. Bnei Moshe says that it's actually just a large vessel of some sort. But he also says the reason why it's okay is because of if you're going to do less this way, so therefore labor saving device, it's better. So, as I said, very divergent Perushim, more than I said to begin with. Right? It's a scale, a pulley, or just a large vessel. Okay, I don't think. I'm sure there are other Perushim, but that's enough for us. Remind me, Boragola b'Shabbos. You can fill out from the Boragola on Shabbos. Mi Boragola, mi Borakar b'Yotiv. That's a header from a quote from a Mishnah. Okay, so yesterday I was unclear, and today I'm still unclear. It's not clear from what this bar gadol is. It's it could be read in two ways. Bali bar gadol begalgal b'Shabbos mi bar gadol. In other words, that bar gadol is the bar gadol, or mi bali bar gadol b'Shabbos. Period. And mi bar gadol barakar b'yontif. And the Gemara doesn't really address it. What this bar gadol is, just goes immediately to barakar. Okay, so. This Boragodol is either the Boragola, so it's called Boragodol, and it's in the base of Mikdash, and the Borakar something else, or the Boragodol is a different Bor outside the base of Mikdash, also like the Borakar. They're matir to use it on Yontif. So Gemara says, "Neima mali Borakar b'Galgal b'Yontif." Why can't you use the Borakar? So yesterday it's either cold or it's Mayim Chaim because it comes from a source, a spring, but it's outside the base of Mikdash. So why are you allowed to use a pulley on that bor on Shabbos? From when now I want to go back a second. We'll tell you something which is bothering the Chaim shot in the in Adosha, because it seems like if it is a galgal, so it seems like we gave a dispensation to many other pulleys, but from our Mishnah it sounds like only giving a dispensation to this case. So difficult. Reb Chaim's interpretation of the Adosha being a galgal probably is a more, even though it might be a little more difficult to understand what you're gaining with it, but it's it's talking about the large scale, the large keli. Anyway, so because here back to police and saying name Mamali Bigarakar Begalgal Beyontim and Bishashuli some go because when Amisla came up from the Golos, Chanel Osa Be'er, they encamped on that bear on their way to Eretz Yisrael. The Nevi'im made a stipulation then that since this bear, of course, was of crucial importance to them when they were coming up to Eretz Yisrael, so there for the time of Shiva Sion, Malin be Bor Hakar. They would be allowed to fill up from this Bor Hakar B'Yontif. So the Gemara clarifies, lo kol be'eros hakar hitir, not all either cold be'eros or springs they're matir. El osa be'er shehi chanu aleh bilvad. Only this specific bear, which evidently was a famous be'er, which they were matir that one specifically. Hechmat Amar Tamon. And just like what we said over there, way back when by Pasi Biros, that although the Korban Ada takes this whole out here, but if you read it, it means just like we said, there's a sheet over there, Mashuta Uta, they only matir specifically for cases with only regolim, and there are certain limitations. So this over here, so to hear this opinion goes that says that local bears like that opinion, or by Pasabiro said it specifically similar to that case where they were going up to Yerushalayim, they're matir here to specifically the bear where they were used to going up to Yerushalayim, they're matir, not other ones. Moshe. Again, the Korban takes out this whole line. Moshe says this is a chumrah. We're explaining the chumrah. In other words, just like we had opinion over there, only matir pasibros only regolim, so it's only matir the bor hakar for the people who for the specific marcher matir back then. But the way the Reb Chaim learns, the way the art school learns it, it's a kula. It's saying that. Even batatam. In other words, people are not going up to Yerushalayim anymore. Without necessarily that way. They don't necessarily need the Bor Hakar, but it's only necessary in Shiva Sion. But once it was mutter, it was mutter. So they pass biros. Once they're matir, even though people are not using it for the other was man, they're also they can Cambridge Hutra. So it's either to explain chumrah, why specifically whatever they're matir not more, or kula, that once they're matir something, and even though batal tam, the heter still remains afterwards. Sheretz, shenim sabah mikdash. Sheretz is the fine base of mikdash, and of course it's dead rodents, it's muktzah. Nevertheless, kohen motzir b'yem yoro. A kohen can take it out, only it in his belt. See the Korban B'yem Yoro b'avneito is spelled afagad and betamei avneit, even though it's betamei avneit shu kadosh, which is holy. Haki if this is better, shalol yashos atum ba'azora, to not delay and tarry with the tumah nazora. Milach zora chatzfashel eitz, rather than what would perhaps be the ideal way to find tweezers of wood, shubshutek le'etz, which is a simple wooden vessel, shen kabel's tumah, which is not makabel tumah. V'yadav lo nagabo, he didn't touch with hands, though he made kohen gufe. So the kohen himself should not become tummy. He'll be yona ochozo. Therefore, holds it with his belt. Sheretz ein b'tamei b'masa, and carrying it doesn't come tummy because the sheretz not b'tamei by carrying it, only by touching it. V'avnei shemittamei b'sheretz ein b'tamei kohen sheochso, and the avnei which comes tummy when it touches the sheretz not b'tamei kohen when he holds it. The avnei rishon tumah, the avnei becomes the sheretz is an av. The avnei becomes a rishon. And a person in the vessels are only mekabel tumah from an avatuma, and this is the vlad. The Hamyon is now a vlad. Okay, so let's see back inside. Not to delay the tumah. Rabbi Yehuda ben Broka. Rabbi Yehuda ben Broka. No, you do wait. You do bring a wooden tweezers. In order not to make more things tummy, in order not to make the belt tummy. So from where do we isn't necessary to move it? So he says, it says, however, if you find it outside the hechel or the ulam, you could just cover it with a pot. Leave it until nightfall. The Rabbi Akiva Makom Shchavim Aus Dono Kores. Any place where you go in literally Tame, you are Kores. She goes to Chatas, same place, of course, where you go in. Show you be Chatas. Bishamotimoso. From there, you move it. he says, because Korbanei Daim Mikol Azara. That's includes the entire Azara. Not just between the Hechel and between the Meulam Mizrach, the rest of the Azara as well. There you move it from elsewhere. You put on it this type of pot, inverted pot, in order to protect people from becoming tomei. The Rabbi Shimon Omer Makom Shtilcha Chachamim Mishachonas Loch. So Tilcha Mishum Shvus. All the places are going to matter. They are matter something which is yours, because they only matter things which are the Rabbanans. So it's a very cryptic statement. It says the Korban Eda. Shimon Poi Tanakam Del. Yours Tanakam of the prior Mishnah. B'Sovei Hod She'ein Koshi Nimas Kinor. You can't tie a knot of a violin which broke, and rather you're going to make a slip knot. In order to that you not come to chiv deraisa. Rabbi Shimon said, "Hadani machmir kan," that which I machmir here. Umeikel b'tchumin le'el, and I meikel by tchumin previously. Prak mishotziu. I feel chamesh amos. He goes even with 15 amos outside the tchum, you can come back in. We just came back something which really is not, which is yours to begin with. The way they left it is that they measured in a way that they made it 15 amos short. So the 15 amos they gave you really give you back your own thing. But by tying a knot, the Medina chiv the raisa, which would, if you did it in the Medina, it would be a deraisa. Vade also that they would not allow you to do in the Beis Hamikdash, even for the purpose of the Shir on Shabbos. There you could only slip knot be permitted, not an actual knot. So it says, I'm going to be Yochum ben Broka. Yochum ben Soka said, if you're going to wait around to get that's fast, aren't you being leaving Tumah in the Beis Hamikdash longer? And it's not clear, of course, what exactly the prohibition of having the shirts in the Beis Hamikdash is. I don't think it was Issa D'Oraisa. I don't know if it's even Issa D'Rabbanan, but obviously they didn't want to have Tumah in the Beis Hamikdash. I'm not sure if anybody addresses that. The article in the Mishnah brought down just a slew of Mar Mekaymas. Says Diun be Issa Gather Issa Shia B'Turas Hamikdash. He says it's looking by Midbar and the Bavli and Taisus and Roimei Sadeh and Mikdash David. So evidently it's not 100% clear what the Isser is, and there's a discussion of what the Isser it might be. Just a quote reference to the Taisus on Daf HaKufay, and it says that it says here, the machni sheretz chayav, if not to bring the sheretz in the Beis Hamikdash, which is good, it's being betami the Beis Hamikdash. So then, which is explicit pasuk. So then, what in the muzer lot see, they're also supposed to be moitzi the tuma. Mi vishalchon yamachne. Kol here tkri later mus mishkani. Anytime it says don't be betami the mikdash kohen vishalchon. Okay, so that's his assumption which Taisus makes on the Daf Kufay. So let's go back to the market. I'm going to be he says Masha Betuma. Are you not delaying the taking of the tomb? You're going to look for a tweezers of wood. I'm going to learn this Marbatuma. Aren't you making it worse being Marbatuma, making additionally tummy by making the Avnei Tuma? I'm going to say Muta Avor Mitzvahs Muta Mitzvahs say Shalo Bas Li Yado. It's easiest to learn, like Chaim learns, that this is Rabbi Yehuda was saying to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. He says it's better not to from being to over mitzvah meaning to refrain from picking it up with your hemion, which is a kumba say you're being matami something deliberately. Mitzvah say shabbat in front of the mitzvah say which came in mitzvah say which comes in front of you, meaning to do a kumva say to actually take a the hemion and be matame it. So a little bit choppy the Gemara, but that seems to be like the second Pshat Korban Eda, which seems to say tries to make it work with Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, but it's hard to to understand it. So again, the Gemara's first starts the statement Rabbi Yochanan ben Brokel, then it says Mashatuma. Rabbi responds, then it says Marbatuma, and then Rabbi says again. So is mutar avar mitzvah say mishlo bas yodem mitzvah say shebas tefara. Rabbi Yosef Rabuna so an asilein plukta kilein plukta kilein plukta. This machlokas is similar to another machlokas. The Tnei Taman. We went over there. Case on fishing challah betuma beyond. How can you take a challah betuma beyond? The problem is that the challah is tamei. It's not edible, so you can't bake it, but it's become chametz. So what are you going to do with it on Pesach? So it's a mishach chal b'tum b'yontim. Let's say lo tigal l'shem acha te'afeh. You don't identify your challah until it's actually baked. So the commentator says lo tigal l'shem challah te'afeh tchilat katiko chad v'chad achaz Yisrael. Each one is suitable for Yisrael, and therefore you can bake it as matzah. And then Mavish Kol Chadaport you can take off a little bit after it's fully baked as the as your challah. So the carbonator has changed the gear so here. Basically what I'm talking evidently. It's basically what I'm talking, based on something else. So he says Litzoinen. So you put the dough in cold water to prevent it becoming chametz. Rabbi Shmuel says that lo zel chametz shemuzhane by Motze. No, you can set it aside the challah normally, even though it's become chametz, it no longer belongs to anybody because it's challah. It hasn't become to kohen yet. El mefarshto, you set aside mnicht at erev, and you leave it till nightfall. Chmitza. So then it becomes chametz. It becomes chametz. So the three-way machlokas. Lezer don't designate it until it's baked. The Messiah says put it in cold water, and Rabbi Yeshua says that it's fine as is. Amar Rabbi Yeshua said learning to take a sort of kachim b'yontif doesn't come out like you're burning kachim on yontif. Now there's a pellet because we didn't see anywhere anybody says you burnt it, right? It just says you let it become matzah, and then you take it off, and the Messiah said you put it in cold water. Where's the burning? So Reb Chaim points out that according to, I'm not sure explicit in the Gemara there, that based in Yerushalmi there, he says that the commentator also says something similar. He says that you leave it after it's matzah, and then you designate a little bit as a as the challah. You leave that challah in the oven, and it gets burnt to a crisp. So that's chasam. I mean, that's brisa, but it's the assumption here. According to Rabbi Lezer, you bake it on matzah, so there's no chametz there, but then you burn it. So it's a problem, right? It says serve kachim yontif. You're burning kachim yontif. You're not allowed to burn kachim in yontif. So how does this work? So I think it's a rabbanon to burn kachim yontif. I don't recall if it's a deraisa, but so it could be tavar shel tzorach. That's why it's even deraisa. But in any event, he said, so he says, now to burn, I don't remember. But he says, burning kachim yontif is aser. So Amalei Blazer says, no, Meilen is softening. You're not deliberately, you're just leaving it in the oven. In other words, you're taking the matzah out, which you're using, which is chulin, and you're leaving the challah in. So it burns on its own. You're not doing a maisa. Amalo, now again, and this is a raya, I guess, the way we learned before, the Pnei Moshe changes this to Amalo, not Rabbi Yoshua, so it's not a retort, but Amalo li Rabbi Yoshua. So same structure as before, right? It's the Rabbi Lezer responds, and then he asks a question. As like we said before, Rabbi responds, and then he asks a question. right? So the Amar Rabbi Yeshua says Bnei Moshe. Lo nimtza over Abai Rabbi Motzei. He says, aren't you being over by Rabbi Motzei? Because now you have chametz in your house, right? There's a different way of saying it. Instead of Amalei Le Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi H says Amalei Rabbi Eliezer, but same point. It's better to be over on the mitzvahs, say in a sheval tase, right? That's automatic, as opposed to mitzvah say shabbos lefanecha, mitzvah say which came from you, meaning somehow or another, even though you're leaving in the oven. I guess since you originally put in the oven as part of the general dough, leaving the oven is more of a ma'isa, so therefore it's more aser. And Abishu obviously said before that besides that, it's not even your real it's not by Rabbi Mutz, it's only like by Rabbi Mutz because you don't really own the challah. But he's adding a point here, saying it's also Shei Bal Taisa, which is better than Kum Vase. Okay, we have yet another similar issue here. Tamadina, we learned Hayitonim Matanachos, Karbanos of which you're supposed to put one application on Mizbech. She started me Hayitonim Matanachas, which got mixed up with other Karbanos, which was with one application. Nosim Matanachas, you do one application. Matan Arba, those are supposed to have four applications. Matan Arba, those have four applications. Nosim Matan Arba, you do four applications. Matan Arba Matanachas. One which is supposed to do four applications, one is to do one application. Let's say Nosim Mehem Arba. You put four applications. The Rabbi Shomer, you know, Matan Achas. Shua says you do only one application. Now, with the Evet, you have to do an application. The question is what the lechatchila is, right? So according to Rabbi Yeshua, you only do one. According to Lezer, you do four. You're not being over about tikra if you only do one. You're doing the mitzvah shlo tikuna. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua said, "Lo nimtza over about tosif." Are you not being over on about tosif? In other words, you're only supposed to do one. You're doing four, so it's either about tikra or about tosif. So in the Vilna it says, "Amar lo." The Reb Chaim takes it out. He says that because here's Rabbi Yeshua continuing to speak. He says, "Amar whether you have Amar lo or not means Rabbi Yeshua says, it's better to be over about tigra, which is a low sheval taisa, by refraining. It says yodi. So so therefore he's saying that it's better to be over about tigra by sheval taisa than to be over about Tosif by Kum Vasei. So it says that according to Rabbi Lezer, you're supposed to put down the other matanos l'shem maim, so that whoever, which is matan arba, you have in mind with the matan achas, the shem matan arba, putting on matan arba, you have l'shem maim, in order to avoid the issue about Tosif. But in any event, the point is that you're doing mice to be a dime, and therefore he's saying you're supposed to refrain from the same argument we had before. And that brings us actually to the top of Ayin Alpha Rav. So stop here for today.